You're the guy tonight.
I'm your host. Let's play our game. So did Sheila confirm?
She did not verbally confirm, but I could hear.
What am I confirming?
That you can hear us and that we can hear you.
I can hear you now, yes.
Brilliant. Okay. The time is now 7 p.m. and I will call this meeting to order. May we have roll call, please?
Mayor Reichel, Pro Tem Hanrahan,
Here.
Trustee Britnall,
Here.
Trustee Klassen,
Here.
Trustee Flores,
Here.
Trustee Poston, Trustee Siebert.
Here.
May we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, please be seated. First item on the agenda this evening is public comments. Persons desiring to make public comment on any items not on the agenda, please activate the raise hand function in the meeting program. Or Sheila, did we have any phone calls or emails with relation to non-agenda items?
No, I did not hear from anyone today.
Do we have any hands raised?
No, we do. Excuse me. No, we do not. We only have staff on the Zoom meeting.
Okay. Did anyone sign in chambers?
No, sir.
Okay. Then the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, which includes the minutes of the March 11th, 2024 Board of Trustees meeting, renewal of the retail liquor license for Silt Liquor, resolution number 16, series 2024, and approval of the 2024 intergovernmental agency for agreement for mosquito control with Garfield County. Does anyone want to discuss any of that or make a motion?
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Motion was recommended by Trustee Seifert, seconded by Trustee Klassen. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Do any members of the board have any conflicts of interest with anything on the agenda this evening?
No, sir.
Does staff have any agenda changes this evening?
We do not.
Any board members want to add anything to the agenda this evening?
Nope, I'm good.
It's our March Madness game we all want to watch tonight. We're moving fast. Okay, the next...
There's no games on tonight, actually.
Really? But then let's just stack up the agenda. Next item on the agenda is resolution number 12, series 2024, a resolution finding substantial compliance with an annexation petition for a property owned by Matthew and Susan Jamu West of County Road 231 into the municipal boundaries of the town of Silt, Garfield County, state of Colorado. I will turn it over to Planner Chain.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Sheila, can you let me guide the screen? Okay. Dude. Well, I don't have that queued up, so keep your screen up, please. Sorry about that. Okay, this is really a procedural item tonight. And the gentlemen you see here are representing the Lestadian Lutheran Church of the Roaring Fork Valley, and we do have one of the town attorneys who are attending the meeting today. There's a petition for annexation for 0.723 acres of property. And the goal is to eventually have that added to the church property. The church property is at the top of First Street. I think all of you are aware of that. And the Jermus own about 6+ acres to the west of it. And this is on the west side of First Street, 231 Road, and it's just above Miraloma Iron Horse. So this is really procedural tonight. It's a petition for annexation, and it's sort of a joint annexation between the church and the owners of the Jermu property. And the Planning Commission examined this application on December 8th, 2023, and on January 9th, 2024. They recommend approval of the annexation as well as placing the property into the agricultural rural zone district. And churches are permitted uses in that zone district. And they did adopt Planning Commission Resolution Number 1, Series of 24. So tonight, this is a resolution of substantial compliance. It says that the application conforms with state statute and it's eligible to be annexed. On May 13th, I believe it is, there's a meeting. We'll be looking at zoning, other issues. There were some conversation with the public during the Planning Commission meeting, and the church did go and have a meeting for the neighborhood prior to the second meeting. And I have not heard of any other concerns that were brought up at this time. The only other thing, and we don't need to talk about it tonight, is that this will eventually have a lot line adjustment plat, which the town will approve. And this 0.7 acres, 31,000 square feet, will be added to the church property on the west. And if you can see that map up there, it also shows on the east boundary of the church. That boundary goes out to the midline of the county road right-of-way, and that should be corrected as part of procedures, because that's unnecessary. It's probably just some mistake. So I said, once again, this is it is a public hearing, but this is procedural. And Logan, do you want to add anything before we move forward?
Yeah, would you like to come up to the table and?
And this is Logan Jermu. He's a property representative.
Yeah, my name is Logan Jermu, and I'm representing the church in this matter. No, I don't think anything to add at this time. Planner Jane summed it up quite well, but thank you for your consideration for our annexation here. So be willing to field any questions if you have any.
And Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, either Lawrence Bond or Michael Sawyer is present, so whoever is there with Carp, New and Hanlon, is there anything you feel you need to add at this time? And since nobody's saying anything, I guess they don't need to add anything.
Yeah, I guess they're good. So it's just a small sliver here.
Sorry, this is Lawrence Bond. I just wanted to introduce myself. I was trying to unmute, but it wasn't giving me that option right at that moment. I don't have anything to add, though, so sorry to interrupt. But thank you, Mr. Chain, for the introduction.
Okay, thanks, Lawrence. And then the location map is up there. You can see the placement of the church to the west of the county road right-of-way. And then I have the Jermu property located there also, and that's right above the Miraloma subdivision, Phase 1.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to say, it's just the little skinny strip that's on the black and white one, not that entire.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct, yeah. It's a portion of it.
Okay.
Yeah. And they're slowly growing, and they just want to prepare for the future. There's sort of a common interest there.
Okay. I don't have any further questions.
No,
And no zoning conflict with the use case?
No, there shouldn't be, and tonight is not the zoning hearing anyway, but I did not find any conflict with that, and I can give you a more in-depth report at the public hearing. And then procedural, because it was advertised as a public hearing, that's part of the requirement. You do need to open a public hearing in case someone has some comments to make.
Okay. Any other board questions, comments, concerns?
Nope. Nope.
Okay. The time is 7:10, and I will open up the public hearing in regards to resolution number 12, series 2024. Persons desiring to make a public comment on this agenda item, please activate the raised hand function in the meeting program. Sheila, did we get any phone calls or emails in regard to this item?
No, I did not hear from anyone.
I do not show any raised hands.
Well, that was quick and easy. Time is,
Anybody else?
anybody in chambers? Thank you, Jerry. Like to make a public comment? No. All right, the time is 7:11, and I will close the public hearing and open it up to further discussion by the board or a motion.
Well, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 12, series 2024, a resolution finding substantial compliance with an annexation petition for a property owned by Matthew and Susan Jermu. Is that? West of County Road 231 into the municipal boundaries of the town of Silt, Garfield County, state of Colorado.
Second.
Motion was made by trustee Clausen, seconded by trustee Seifert. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll see you on May 13th.
Thank you.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you. Because I thought Tony might, he lives right next door, so that's why I was making sure.
Appreciate it. Okay, moving right along. The next item on the agenda is the first reading of ordinance number 5, series 2024. An ordinance of the town of Silt, Colorado, acting by and through its water and wastewater activity enterprise, designating representatives authorized to coordinate with the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment and the Colorado Water Resources and Power Development Authority regarding financial matters. Easy for me to say.
Yes,
And I
very
will-
easy for you to
And
say.
I will turn it over to interim manager Mann.
Thank you. This is a generally housekeeping item with the departure of Administrator Lehman and Public Works Director Fonner. We need to designate new individuals to be the signatories for all things water plant related when it comes to CDPHE and the Colorado Water Resources and Power Development Authority. This appoints the town clerk, Sheila McIntyre, and town treasurer, Amy Tucker, to that role. And it also, we did, in the resolution, include their successors. So in theory, we wouldn't have to do this again if either of those individuals left. But my guess is both CDPHE and the Power Development Authority would require us to do a formal ordinance again.
Yeah, I'm thinking we couldn't automatically opt in whomever their successor is, right?
That's, we put it in there, but we're not sure whether they would accept that because they like to have an actual name attached to who can sign and who cannot.
Well, we just don't let either of them leave until the project's finished at least.
Well, I'll take it as a personal affront.
No more departures allowed. Can we make that a resolution?
There should be, I'm just gonna ask, there should be no conflict of interest with McIntyre, Sheila and Amy being I'm just checking. I didn't know.
Correct, there is no conflict.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure on that. Sometimes there, you gotta make sure there is no, being they both handle money with, what I'm getting at, so another access to
Yep.
something, so.
That relates to my own question, which is checks and balances on that system. Who is overseeing those processes?
Well, the main overseer is the CDPHE and the Power Development Authority because we have to request from them the releasing of funds so we can pay our bills.
Is there a maximum amount beyond which it would require checking in with you, Jim, or the board? I know we talked about this in a different context in our last meeting.
There would not be a maximum amount that's included in that, but it is an item that not only will Mr. Fonner be continuing in a consulting role with us to review invoices, but it'll be a team effort from our perspective in terms of making sure that we're not paying out more than we should. That also includes that we've got Garney Construction on board as the CMAR, as well as Dewberry also doing checks and balances. So there's a lot of checks and balances to make sure that we're not sending dollars out the door that we shouldn't be.
So if one of those invoices comes in from a subcontractor, would that be filtered through Garney before it arrived
Yes.
on the desk of Sheila and or Amy?
Yes,
They're the gatekeepers on that.
there are gatekeepers that have to sign off that the work was actually done.
Okay.
Is there more than, or is this requiring just one signature, or does these require two signatures, these checks for this?
My understanding is it is an either or. They're just both included as signatories.
Okay.
And we have the two of them on there in case one is not available. Previously, you had both Administrator Lehman and Director Fonner as your signatories.
Okay.
Does the institution of a 4-day work week have any negative impact on this in terms of timeliness?
Should
Checks
not.
have to get cut quickly. Is Garney going to be aware of that, such that these checks and balances and gatekeeping and invoicing are happening in a timely manner? So there isn't a plumber, and I'm oversimplifying it, but
Yeah.
there isn't a plumber somewhere, someone who did work, they submit it on Thursday afternoon, and it's, we'll see you Monday? I'm assuming that
Usually
isn't
they're
going to
30
happen.
Usually they're 30 days.
We have 30 days to pay
They
the
all have a net
invoices.
greater than one.
We have 30 days to pay the invoices after they've been approved by our construction management firm.
Okay.
So can I add something just for clarification? We're going to get 2 invoices a month, one from Garney, one from Dewberry. Garney is paying all of the subcontractors, and then we are reimbursing Garney. So there will only be 2 invoices coming in on a monthly basis that we would have to then turn into the state to be refunded.
I'm gonna ask you a question. I'm 100% sure they do, but I was gonna ask it way back when. I'm assuming Garney, when they pay all of their checks, they have the lien waiver release on there when they pay out. They're responsible for the lien waivers?
That you would, I don't have the answer to that.
We can check with Garney.
I would
on
check.
that.
That's something, you know, I mean, that's
Yep.
something we should find out about. Who's liable for, usually it's when they pay the subs out, when they sign that check, they release the lien.
Right, right.
But I was gonna ask you the other week and I forgot about it. I thought, we better, I don't know. I mean,
Well-
good idea to find out who, or if we have to do that. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll clear that up. We've got our weekly meeting with them tomorrow, and I'll ask.
Ask them about that. I'm
Report
pretty
that.
sure usually at Garney, FC, all of them, they do that when they send the checks. It's right up above whoever the contractor, when he signs that. But it doesn't hurt to ask. 'Cause
Nope.
some of them, they forget about it and all of a sudden you got a lien and it's like, oh, nobody thought about that one, so. I'm just asking.
We'll follow up on that.
Other questions?
Any questions I had have been answered. So.
All right. This is a public hearing item, so I will open it up. The time is 7:19 PM, and I will open up the public hearing in regards to the first reading of ordinance number 5, series 2024. Persons desiring to make a public comment on this agenda item, please activate the raised hand function in the meeting program. Sheila, did we have any calls or emails in regards to this agenda item?
No, I did not hear from anyone.
Any raised hands, Amy? We'll take that as,
I don't see the raised hands.
I muted myself. I apologize. I answered you, but you couldn't hear me. We do not have any raised hands.
thank you. And there's no one else in chambers. So the time is 7:20 PM, and I will close the public hearing and open it up for further discussion by the board or a motion.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to approve the first reading ordinance 5, Series 2024 as presented.
Motion by trustee Seifert, seconded by trustee Britnall. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is the proposed Town of Silt work week schedule. I will turn this over to interim manager Mann.
Thank you. You had asked us to report back the scheduling process that the departments were going to utilize with the eventual shift to the 410s. You have a memo that was prepared by Public Works Director Fonner that's included or attached to the agenda item. They will not be changing their schedule until we actually switch over to the 410s. So on April 29th, they will go to the 410 schedule, and they will make arrangements for the on-call person in both water, wastewater, as well as Public Works to appropriately adjust their schedule on a day sometime between Monday and Thursday to make up for the time that they're working on the weekends. This has no impact on the police department. They're already working 410s. The office and the office staff, as well as community development, will start working 4 9s Monday through Thursday, and then a 4-hour shift on Friday until April 29th, at which time we would anticipate going to the 410s. Community development will be working different hours simply because when they have an event, those events tend to occur on Fridays or Saturdays. They'll just be adjusting their schedule accordingly, but working within the Monday through Thursday for 10-hour days. And then the last piece of clarification I would put in there is that it's anticipated that on the time changes, when we go off of daylight savings time and then back on daylight savings time, Public Works and Utilities will likely switch back to a 5-day work week. It's a bit of a health safety issue for them working out there when it's dark. Plus, it will help during snow plowing operations.
Makes sense?
You know, I've talked to a lot of different people, you know, I'm around a lot and stuff, and I have not heard one negative about it. You know, because basically it's even like ours, everything's going online now more and more and more. But people I've talked to, I haven't heard one negative citizen say anything against it, you know. Mm-hmm. They said, why don't you just start with 410? I said, we're going to wean our way into it, but everybody I've talked to, nobody was against it, so. And I've talked to quite a few people, so.
And I'm going to assume their hours start at 7 to 5:30?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, on the Public Works side, I like the fact that they decided to keep the whole crew on the same schedule.
I agree with you. I think it will just make for a more cohesive group being able to knock out projects when they need to knock something out.
Exactly.
I hear there are some projects going on.
There's 1 or 2.
I'm not sure what they are,
Yes.
probably small.
Yeah. Nothing of import.
I don't have anything else to add.
Yeah, the only thing I would mention, and I mentioned it the first time we talked about this in our last meeting, is doing whatever we can to get this message out to the residents of Silt. I know we've got the sign, we've got our newsletters, tie notes to pigeons' feet and pitch them out our windows. Like I just want us to use every and any means we can, social media, to just do what we can to get the message out. There'll always be someone who says, I didn't know, and darn you all. Mm-hmm. I just want to keep that number as low as possible. It'll never be 0. That's just the nature of communities, and that's okay. But I also don't want it to be 1,200 people.
Right. We will continue to make all efforts to make sure people are aware that we're doing the schedule switch.
And I'll tell you right now, being in a small town, post office and the restaurants better than any social media. You always run into, I mean, if people talk in this small town, already people have heard about it.
So put it up on the post office
Yeah,
board,
post
tell,
office,
tell
the big one,
Christian
they
and
see the
Miners
sign.
Claim, hey, get the word out.
Miners claim, whatever, I've run into people, oh, we heard, so,
Those are our conduits for
well,
notifying the public.
We've also started tracking the number of people that are coming in on a Friday, and there aren't that many. Community development probably has more people that come in through the front door than any of the other departments. It's just a matter of anybody who comes in on Friday verbally letting them know that, hey, we're going to be making a switch. But we will be reporting back to you on April 22nd of kind of how the commentary or how the letting people know went over the course of these couple of weeks, because the direction was we were going to report back to you and you were going to give us the final go-ahead to go to the 410s.
And then I guess, yeah, I mean, it doesn't change the police department's schedule, but, if somebody came in for a VIN inspection, they just couldn't do it on Friday. They'd have to do it Monday.
Either that or
through-
they'd have to catch a police officer in the building at the time.
Okay, gotcha.
And
You call dispatch anyways, and dispatch sets up the VIN inspection.
Oh, okay.
yeah, the appointment anyhow.
So they wouldn't schedule it for a Friday or whenever they're not here.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was something you could just walk in and ask for.
And I'm guessing in terms of developers, builders, people who are engaged with community development, that word will get out quickly through Nicole, through planner chain.
Correct.
In other words, they won't become driving here, stopping by, knocking on the door on a Friday saying, where the heck is everyone?
That is the hope, but I guarantee it'll happen at least once.
Yeah,
or
the
twice.
number will never be zero. That's okay.
Yep.
And then me being in water and wastewater, working in a plant, you can start at 3 a.m. if you want, working, and go late. So it really doesn't affect you year round. So that's another good aspect of it.
I think the other, or the related concern there was having someone and having the on-call schedule set up, and it sounds like that's in place and ready to go.
Yes.
So
Yep. They're just shifting the day. You start the on-call a day early, and adjust accordingly.
yeah, this is an easy yes for me.
Mhm.
It's just, it makes sense from a work-life balance standpoint, from keeping the people we have happy in whatever ways we can, and making sure that the town services aren't interrupted in doing that. And I think we've checked those boxes.
And, and while we're moving in this direction, if a year down the road or 2 years down the road or 6 months down the road, the board doesn't like the results, it can always go back. It's a little harder to go backwards, but
Right.
you're the policy directors for the community, so you can always reverse course if there's something that we didn't, there's an unintended consequence.
Yeah, there'd have to be extenuating
Yes.
circumstances. I'm very interested to hear what some of the commentary is on April the 22nd, when we give the final yes or no. I think that'll be an important conversation.
Yep.
To see how that transition has been for the residents. Okay. This is not an action item, just an information item. So if nobody has any further comments or questions, we can move on.
Yep. No, it all looks good.
All right. Next item on the agenda is the February 2024 financial report, and I will turn this over to Treasurer Tucker.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So 16% of the year has elapsed. We are doing well on our sales tax. We are at about 18.5% for that. Our use tax, we're at almost 24%. So we're doing well there. We're right on line for our trash services. Water services, we're higher than we had anticipated. We're at 22%. Doing well with wastewater and irrigation. Our revenues are doing well for most of our funds so far, pretty close to that 16% in most of them. Conservation Trust Fund, we get those payments quarterly from the state, so we won't see that difference until probably the April financial statements. And Silt Housing Authority, we are behind because they didn't get our February's rents to us until March. So you'll see that catch up next month when I report to you guys. And I'll answer any questions you may have.
The sales tax and the use tax numbers look great.
Yes, and I'll give you a little peek that next month we are higher in sales tax in March than we were last year. So it's going up a little bit.
I was just gonna ask, 'cause I saw that we've been below January and February both. Now, is like the online sales, can you see if that, you don't have to answer right now, but if that trend has been going down? Because I know that we had some issues with the post office, and there was lines of people to collect stuff that was purchased in those manners. It looks like at least my mail's been better. So I don't know if that's smoothing out, if maybe that'll increase again as people get more comfortable with ordering stuff directly to their homes again.
Right. Fingers crossed that once the post office gets, and I can't say 100% that the post office is the reason that our sales tax is going down. Online sales seem to be pretty steady.
Okay.
But people are leaving their homes more now than they were in the past with the COVID thing. I do know that it's convenient to be able to order and just have things delivered to your home and not have to go anywhere. But it's also nice to get out.
Yep. It also looks like we have that new store that should be opening up soon. It looks like they're getting closer and closer, at least from the outside. That'll add a little more sales tax.
Yes, I'm hoping quite a bit more sales tax.
And La Placida too.
Yep.
Yes, the new grocery store, yes. And I think it's a meat market as well.
Yep, yep.
And a little restaurant. Yeah.
I know the numbers look good. It is surprising that they're up as much as they are the use tax and the sales tax, given, again, people getting outside post-pandemic, et cetera, et cetera. I was expecting them to dip a little bit post-holidays, and they did in January and into February, but now they're turning the corner, it seems. That's great.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you, Amy.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you, Treasurer Tucker.
Next item on the agenda is a sanctuary community policy discussion. And I will turn this over to Interim
Is that
Manager
something you
Mann.
want the whole board here for? Or?
Well, it was Mayor Pro Tem Hanrahan requested that this be on the agenda for at least a discussion, to start the discussion. We don't have any direction whatsoever. I think, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but the concern is that if we don't take a position, we might find ourselves with a busload of people on our doorstep at some point. And so I think the basis for this evening's meeting is to really kind of gauge if there is a direction that the board would like to move in, that we could then direct the town's attorney to draft a resolution supporting that policy decision. There's a number, there's basically three directions that you can go. You could choose to make no decision, no policy. Mm-hmm. You could choose to become a sanctuary community, and then you could choose to say, we're not going to be a sanctuary community. Each one of those has a certain impact to the town in terms of what people may or may not think. Obviously, probably the most impactful from a fiscal standpoint would be if the board decided that we were going to become a sanctuary community. We would have to then think about the resources that we would have to allocate in the event that we did have 1, 5, 10, 20. I don't even know, I don't even like saying the
Point taken.
Whatever the vernacular is we're supposed to use. I would personally stick with illegal immigration, but I know that's not necessarily politically correct any longer. So, I mean, the whole point of this discussion was just to say, do we, A, want to take a position? And B, what is that position? Because I think there are impacts that we have to, dependent upon what the decision is, that we have to plan for.
Yeah.
Do we have to go down that hole? Because the county already made it on
We don't have to, no.
The town does not have to, but the concern from Mayor Pro Tem Hanrahan was that if we didn't at least talk about it, we could find ourselves in a position where
Right.
a carload, busload shows up and we haven't had this discussion, so we don't know how to proceed. And so that was the purpose of this being on the agenda for this evening, was to start this discussion. There's nothing that requires you to make a decision. In fact, it's not an action item, it's an info item. We're looking for some direction if there is a position or a direction that the Board of Trustees wants to move in. We would start down that road. And I know that we have Town Attorney Bond on the call. I asked him to be on the call, one, to give us a little guidance if we did want to go down a direction, but two, to hear any of the commentary that occurred from any of you folks.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, the county commissioners have already declared a non-sanctuary county, so to me, it sounds like it's a done deal. And, at a previous meeting, and I'll say the same thing, we don't have the resources to do it. We just don't. Even if we all wanted to, we don't have the resources to do it. Because, even somebody suggested, oh, well, town hall. There aren't any shower facilities here. There aren't any, so you have to keep all that into context. We don't have big enough police force to take care of them all and watch them. We just don't have the resources to do it. And I'm gonna say no. And yeah, I guess, to your point, I call them illegal immigrants. I don't understand why we as a society have to keep changing names and words to try to suit which way we want to go. It is what it is. And when I say this has nothing to do with the legal immigrants. If, you have every right to be here. It's the illegal ones that don't have the right to be here because they break the law entering this country illegally. So they've already broken the law. And the thing is, we can't have, the entire continent of South America and Central America in this country. It's not going to work. Our country will fail if we have that many people in here. So we have to control our borders. And the thing is, if I were to go to Japan or Germany, I couldn't just cross the border and say, "Hey, help me, I'm here." They'll be like, "Who are you? Get out." So I'm just saying. And yes, that is part of what makes our country great, is the fact that we do allow that. But it's just gone so rampant and so out of control. It's in turn having a very detrimental effect on our country as a whole. And that's how I feel.
I think that as a board, we've been very logical with COVID, with supporting the Silt PD, with topics as such. I think declaring that we are not a sanctuary city is logical. We don't have the resources. We take care of our citizens first, our citizens that are here first, and we spend resources on them. So that's my stance on it. And I understand the commissioners already stated that, but might as well reaffirm it if it is what all the board members agree to. But I'd also like to hear from the whole board too.
I'd like to hear from Chief Kite. You came into the room. Do you have any comments you'd like to add to the discussion? I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No
you
problem.
came into the room.
As we've discussed before, as we're seeing with Denver and a few of the other larger cities, the migrant population that was brought here has put a huge financial strain on their governments into the millions. We don't have the resources financially as a town. We don't have the resources for housing, or even temporary housing. We just don't have that in our community. It's not that don't feel for them a bit, but we, like you said before, we got to take care of our citizens first. And and I just don't see this happening here. I received some information late last week, which I'll talk with the town manager over, in regards to this. But one, I found out some information which I'll discuss with him, and he'll let me know how to go forward with it. But we've had migrants in the town. They were here for 3 to 4 weeks. They were in our school. They enlisted them in school. Resources ran out. They packed up and left. We do have a few that are coming into the town, staying with certain families. A few more at the Holiday Inn through sponsorship. But that money runs out fast, really quick. And once that's done, they're either homeless or they move on. We don't have a homeless population in our town for the simple fact that most of the property we have in town is privately owned or city owned. And I just don't think we want to try to, if by bringing them in here and putting them in a position where they're going to be homeless and sleeping under bridges and parks and that type of thing. I just don't think it's something the town needs. I don't think the town should be put in that position, and I don't think they should be put in that position. Any questions for me?
How do you feel about vocalizing a stance on it?
I think we should. I think it should be loud and very black and white. No gray areas. And it should be that it's not that they're not welcome, just we have nothing here for you. We cannot help you. You can't come here and expect, the hotel rooms and everything else that they're doing in Denver and the other major cities. We see it across the country, that cities are laying off their employees because they've ran out of money. I guess it's not called a layoff, it's you still work for us, but you don't have any hours
You
on
just
the
don't get
schedule.
scheduled, yeah. I saw that in the Denver stuff.
It's like I said, it's not that I don't feel for somebody trying to get out of something bad and get to a better life, but doing it the way it's been done, I don't agree with. It puts everybody in a bad situation. And I think if we even have a tiny bit of gray area on our stance, it's going to open up a door we don't want to get into. So it should be very black and white and very upfront and forward.
I was just say, from the community standpoint, as a community, as the town of Silt, we don't have the resources to take care of people. Now, obviously, if churches and individuals want to open their home or something like that, that's their individual rights as individuals and organizations separate from the town. But I just don't feel like the town has, again, we have a water plant we're building that we're struggling, that we have already put a burden on citizens for. So it's not like we can raise more taxes or ask for more to support people that aren't part of the community currently. And bringing them in and then having them become homeless, like Chief is saying, is a dangerous situation, because then people, when you have things and then you don't have things available to you, people find ways to get things. And we don't want to have those problems. And so that's, but again, I mean, if somebody as an individual wanted to bring somebody into their home, or churches want to open up their doors, or individual things, that's all on them, because that's their rights as citizens as well. But as a community, I think our stance should be that we just can't do it. We don't have the resources.
It's interesting that the comment about Garfield County already having it in place. I guess my concern is that individuals aren't coming to Garfield County, they would be coming to Silt. We're sort of the smallest unit of being a municipality. Yes, technically they're in
we're the
Garfield County,
smallest
but
unit,
we
so we
would
don't have
we
the
would be the ones who would
resources.
have to provide those services. So again, I'm the one who asked to have this on the agenda. I think I blew you Thursday up, so I apologize for that, but that's what you signed up for, right?
Yes.
For exactly this reason. Thank you for your commentary, Chief Kite. Thank you to all the board members. Some interesting things that I learned, and Lawrence, feel free to correct me if this has changed. The term sanctuary city has no legal definition. What that means in practice is that a group of homeless people, any other collective group of people that felt like they could come to this town to receive services for free, if we're designated as being a sanctuary city, it gives them a license to do that, because the term has no legal definition. It's arbitrary.
So it wouldn't be just migrants, it could be the coalition of nomadic people.
I'll give you an anecdote. San Jose in California has a homeless epidemic, and they looked into the possibility of paying to transport the homeless population in small groups elsewhere. I know it blew up in their face. It was pre-pandemic that they were exploring it, but every municipality around them said, we simply don't have the resources. So that's a case where they were trying to do what they felt was the right thing for their population, but negatively impacting their neighbors. I think it having no legal definition means, again, any group could use our listing as a sanctuary city to say, we can go there and get help. Another thing that I found interesting is that there are online maps of sanctuary cities. They're not governed in any way by any legal entity. They're just websites that have popped up that provide maps, interactive maps. You can zoom in and out just like Google Maps and say, find me a sanctuary city in western Colorado. Find me one in Kansas. Find me one in Illinois. And they're completely unregulated. The way that you get put on the map is by designating yourself as being a sanctuary city. The last thing I'll bring up, and it relates to your point, Sam, is that Carbondale didn't have a policy one way or the other. And their population increased by 5% all at once. They have a
just showed
budget.
up. They just showed up, they
Right.
were under the bridge, and
180 people
it was
is give
November,
or
and
take
they were cold. and
5% of their population increased 5% in a day, or maybe a week or a month. And with all of their resources, they have a significantly bigger budget than the town of Silt. They immediately required outside help, and even then, they were only able to keep it running for 4 months, and it's all winding down now. I think if we open ourselves up to being a sanctuary city, it puts a tremendous burden on our own citizens, and it only delays the inevitability of the problem. It doesn't solve anything. Do we need comprehensive immigration reform? Absolutely. Can Silt do it? Absolutely not. And you brought up a great point, Sam, when we talked about this previously. You said, and I'm paraphrasing, how do we turn a citizen's water off if they're not paying the bill and give it away for free to someone who isn't even a resident within the town of Silt? How do we reconcile that disparity? I don't have an answer. But I do think we need to make a decision about whether we are or are not going to be a sanctuary community. Montrose is another municipality that recently decided they're not going to make a decision. They purposefully said, we're not going to pick one side or the other, which I think leads to the potential of being the next Carbondale. And I'm not comfortable with that. Whether we do or we don't, we need to make a choice. That's why I asked to have this discussion, so we could start down that road. I don't want to advocate one position or another. I just want us to agree that we should make a decision, and maybe in a future meeting, well, definitely in a future meeting, set up an agenda item to establish a policy.
But I know a couple cities that have been non-sanctuary, didn't stop them, they still showed up.
Yes, you
And then
can't
they
close
really
the
had to
roads.
fight, and they are having a heck of a time getting them out of there. It was worse if they said if they'd have left it alone. And the other thing, I'm for, we can't take them, we don't have the room. We just gotta be careful, because I know of one town in particular back home, they did non-sanctuary, and the church brought in a busload for a week or so, just as a church thing. And they got sued, because you let them in, because you said you were non-sanctuary, and the church says, why can't we bring them in?
I think in that case,
No, it's because you're saying non-sanctuary, it doesn't say who or what or where.
but if you're a private entity, that's
No.
a different animal, even if
No, it
you're a
isn't.
nonprofit like a church.
It doesn't matter, non-sanctuary is non-sanctuary.
But you can't regulate what people can do with their resources.
Right.
Our job is to help guide the town's policies,
And our
not the church's
resources.
policy, not
Right.
John
Whether it
Smith's
was a church
policy.
or whatever,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I'm for, I know we can't do it, but I don't know if I want to declare a non-sanctuary right now. I'm not.
If a
not sure about
church,
that one.
if the VFW or the Moose Group or the Rotary Club or some other private group, be it nonprofit or otherwise, wants to do it, then it's their liability and their responsibility. I'm with Justin. We need to protect the town's resources, whether they be people, whether they be water, whether they be funds. I cannot in good conscience tell the people of Silt that we can't provide for them when we can provide for someone else who showed up because of an online map. And again, on a personal level, the U.S. needs comprehensive immigration reform, full stop. But the town of Silt can't be a driver for that. That is way beyond our purview. And in light of that, and in light of the political climate, I feel like we have to pick a side.
No, you're right. I agree. Our citizens come first. It's a pretty simple, our citizens come first. It's black and white. And I'm going to say, no, we are not a sanctuary city.
I've had a few calls from citizens. I've had some conversations while walking my dog with citizens. It's been unanimous that we simply can't be a sanctuary city. It's not a moral decision, it's a resource decision.
100%.
Well, I'd be in favor in drawing something up, but also having a conversation, you know what I mean, with the full board.
Yeah, that was gonna be my comment. I wanna make sure that the mayor,
Yep. So from a policy direction, I'm understanding from the five of you sitting here that you would but you would lean towards some sort of declaration saying that we are a non-sanctuary community.
Yeah.
You could do that by simply affirming or adopting what Garfield County put in place. But you also then may want to go further and say, what does this mean? We'll work with immigration on these matters, law enforcement. What teeth behind that do you want? Or do you just want to say, we agree with Garfield County? Basically what they said.
the risk there is that Garfield County, after the next election, could change that designation. What then?
Then you would probably have to revisit the policy because you agreed with the policy that was put in place.
And that's where I think maybe the lawyer, attorney could look
our
at
own
what policy
policy.
they've used and use as a framework for ours possibly, but something along those lines. I'd want to have our own separate policy
Yeah.
versus saying, yeah, what they said, because
Okay.
saying, yeah, what they said can be dangerous.
I agree
Okay.
with Justin.
That's a good idea, yes.
Yeah.
I agree. And I know, I don't remember the specific law, but I know the state of Colorado has passed a law, I think in 2021 or 2022, that has some say in how local law enforcement can interact with ICE as well as state level law enforcement as it relates to immigration. Not a lawyer, don't know the details, but I know that policy exists at the state level.
Okay.
I think I have a link to it somewhere, but I don't want to look it up now. I can send it to you as a reference if you like. But do you feel like you have the direction that you need?
I think I do. I know Attorney Bond is on the call. Perhaps, I don't know, if you have any questions?
No, I think we have consensus, and I've looked at a few resolutions that other, Garfield County, for example, and a few other municipalities have done. So I think the course of action would be to either draft something that we can move forward on, or wait for the next discussion and see, what exactly we are resolving to do. I mean, I think the point would be more to set forth the standard rather than to make long and lengthy political statements about migration and all of those things. It seems like a very practical policy, and resolution is in order here, is what I've taken away from this discussion. More so practical than political. The practicalities of the town of Silt dictate that it would be in Silt's best interest to be a non-sanctuary community. So we can make a simple resolution for that. And certainly if there's other viewpoints that would like to be added to that or subtracted from it, that we can edit it as seen fit in the future. But for now, we can make a draft resolution that could be kind of the starting point for that.
Should we add an agenda item to the next meeting? Do you think it will take longer?
I would think we could have that resolution done and have that discussion on April 8th.
Sure.
How does the board feel about making it a public hearing? Just to ensure that if people do want to comment on it.
Wouldn't it have to be a public hearing?
Ordinance has to be a public hearing.
Ordinance would be. if it's an
Ordinance has to be. I don't know about resolutions.
I think
Then
opening
it's
up
an
for-
action item,
I
and
think-
those don't have to be
Yeah, the resolution.
public
doesn't have-
hearings.
And I would be cautious about opening it to the public as a public hearing, simply because you might garner a roomful. And not necessarily residents of the town of Silt. And I would certainly encourage town residents to let you folks know their opinions. I just would be cautious about opening it up to a full public, because it may get legs of its own.
Yeah.
It may take, as the attorney was talking about, our policy is a practical policy, not a
Right.
political policy, but people will turn it into a political event.
Yes.
That's a great point.
I like the way he stated that, because it's
Yeah.
exactly how I feel about it. Has nothing to do with
Right.
politics, it's just practicalities of, we aren't able to do it.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
But
I'm just curious how either of you feel about whether or not it should be a public hearing.
No, I wouldn't do it to the public.
no, I mean, if we did, it would have to be on our procedures for public hearings. 30 minutes period, and each person gets 3 minutes to speak.
But
If
that-
we were to do it, that would be the only way to do it.
The challenge there is that the public comment period is for non-agenda items. If it's on the
That's true.
agenda,
Well, I think
But still, even if the public
Trustee Clausen
hearings
is saying is that
Yeah.
if it was open to a public hearing, we'd have to make sure that we adhered to the policy
to that,
strictly.
yes.
absolutely.
Because there's been times in the past we've allowed people to speak longer or whatever, because we understand and we can be understanding about that, but this situation could, yes, the gavel may
Yeah.
be used that night.
We have a timer and a
Yeah.
gavel.
It's my birthday. I won't be able to attend, unfortunately, so.
How
I'll-
convenient.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not necessarily in favor of the public hearing. I'm just saying if we go that
If
route,
I'm reading
we
that
need to-
correctly, there is no 30-minute time limit.
There's no time limit, it's just per person.
It's 3 minutes per person.
So you
Yeah.
could have 150 people in here.
Can I ask Sheila, isn't there a 30-minute time limit somewhere? Maybe I'm not
Public
saying
comments.
it in.
There,
That's public comment.
there is, in fact, it's on your agenda that they're given up to 30 minutes to provide public comments, with 3 minutes apiece, maxing out at the 30 minutes. And the resolution, you wouldn't have to have the public hearing on. I suppose you could play it by ear that evening. If you did have a house full of people, you may want to be cautious about it. If you only have one or two, you might want to open it up too.
Yeah, and if they're not attending, no.
It's a fine line between not wanting to seem too insular and making these decisions that affect the entire population ourselves as elected officials. But then, to the points already made, it may not be residents of Silt that are here. It could be any number, and with Zoom, that opens it up to the world, literally.
If directed, once the policy is drafted, we could include it in the newsletter. And I don't necessarily want to do this to you guys, but say if you have questions, concerns, contact your board members.
Happy birthday, Justin.
This
Don't
is
turn off
the-
your phone.
I think this is the problem. I mean, you're representatives of the town of Silt, empowered to make decisions and policy decisions, et cetera. I'm not, I understand transparency and I understand hearing from the community. There are some times where I think you just need to make a decision.
Yeah. I think we all agree not to open it to public,
Yeah.
so.
I think we just follow standard procedure
Yeah.
for that type of thing and not waver from it.
Yep, not a big deal, just do it. Just do the.
And resolutions and policies can always be changed.
So if
Right.
people
That's true,
do-
yes.
Yep.
I agree.
Okay. Any other aspects of this agenda item that we should be discussing, or town staff, you feel like you have what you need?
I think
to
we
move
do.
Forward,
I think
and we
do.
think we can get it on the agenda for our next meeting.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you again, everybody, for participating. Next item on the agenda, administrator and staff comments. Now we'll turn this over to interim administrator man. I keep calling you man.
Well, I have a couple of things that I'll point out. We were notified today that the National Horseshoe Pitchers Association has sanctioned our courts, which now allows leagues and tournaments to be held on our horseshoe pitch.
I was gonna say that. It was put in my,
Nice, yeah.
yeah, I was there on Sunday when the gentleman from the state came down. He congratulated town staff and the community as a whole on the work that's been done up there, on the quality of the pits. Did all the measurements and everything. Everything was within, so he was able to sanction them. So now we can have local tournaments that will be sanctioned by the state that give individuals a chance to get points that they need to have to play in state tournaments and world tournaments and stuff like that.
Oh, nice.
And it's basically us. Gypsum has some pits there, and I think Grand Junction does. But other than that, it's basically the three of us. So we're the only one in the area.
So there could be a lot of demand.
Possibly could.
Yeah.
We have tournaments. We have the 6 pits. We had a tournament on Sunday because he was coming down, and then we had kind of threw together a memorial tournament for a friend of ours that had passed that used to throw with us. And we had 26 individuals, so 13 teams participating in a tournament on Sunday afternoon.
On short notice.
It was
With
about
no-
a week,
with
about a
no
week,
sanctioning.
About a week. That was a non-sanctioned. That was just could get together and have a good time.
So does that have to be renewed anytime, or is it, yeah,
There's no cost to the town, there's nothing to the town or anything for that. There is we do have a Silt Horseshoe Club that's already got a banner that we had up at the pits on Sunday when we were throwing the tournament. And then the way that works is when there's a sanctioned tournament, half of the entry fee goes to the Colorado Horseshoe Pitching Association. The other half is able to be used as prize money and stuff for the individuals playing. Then that supports the other tournaments and the upkeep and all those things for the state
oh, okay.
on that stuff.
And Heydays will have a sanctioned tournament now.
Hades tournament will probably not be sanctioned.
Too late.
Well, no, it's because to have, during a sanctioned tournament, all individuals participating in the tournament have to have their Colorado Horseshoe Pitchers Association membership. And we don't want to limit Heydays to that. Heydays is a fun event that a lot of the individuals that would be doing all that would be playing in that tournament. We don't want to keep individuals that don't play on a regular basis or aren't wanting to be a member of the state association and exclude them from an event like that.
Makes sense. Keep it local centric.
Yep.
That's great.
Anyway, yeah, that's great news.
So now that spring has sprung completely, we're stepping up, reminding people that dogs are not supposed to be in the parks and they're supposed to be leashed. We're trying to do a bit of a soft reminder to folks because, well, there's a lot of folks out there walking dogs without leashes and they're in the parks and that's because your dog eats the leash.
Fair.
And nobody wants to go in the park and sit down and be sitting in doo-doo. And, definitely want to avoid, especially on the play fields where the kids are playing soccer, baseball, where they're sliding around, et cetera. We've put it in the newsletter this past week. We'll kind of keep doing that just to remind Chief and the department are doing some soft touches, saying, hey, we're going to log you into the system, but here's what you got to do. If they continue to not adhere to the rules, then they may be cited. I think you were all happy that you didn't have to be here at 5 or 5:30 this afternoon. My goal is to limit work sessions to once a month. That we're going to try to do it on the second meeting of the month, so the first one will be April 22nd. We already have a fairly full work session, but definitely plan on that. And the other piece of the work sessions is I'd really like to hope to keep your meetings down to about 2 hours, so that we're not sitting here at 10 o'clock at night. Yes, there will be issues that come up from time to time that keep us here longer. But as a general norm, I'd like for you guys not to have to sit here until 10, 11 o'clock at night, because once you get past about 9 o'clock, nobody's making good decisions anymore. Everybody's worked long days, et cetera. And the last thing I'll just mention is that we are kind of starting the process to get the Public Works and Utilities Director position posted to start going down that road. If all things work out with your recruitment for a new town manager, it would coincide where the new town manager might be starting about the time you're doing the interviews for the new Public Works Utilities Director. So we don't want to necessarily wait until that new manager is hired and on board before we at least start the recruitment process, because that puts us in 90, 120 days past when you actually hire a manager.
So the Public Works Utility Director, that's Fauner's position. That's
Correct.
Taking over.
Correct.
That's just one position, it's not.
It's one position. We are going to have a HR subcommittee meeting coming up. We're going to talk a little bit about the structure of the department, especially the water and sewer department. Just a real brief preview. The water treatment plant plan called for hiring an additional water sewer employee operator when the plant was complete. There's some thoughts that we have to explore, that we want to explore with the subcommittee that will come back to this board in terms of how to structure the department and make sure we get the best bang for our buck with hiring another person. But that all falls under hiring a Public Works and Utilities Director, or Director of Public Works Utilities. I can't remember which way we had the title in the position description, but
Right now, there's someone in the position right now making decisions, right?
we have an interim right now. Joe is stepping up and taking care of that.
Cool.
And that's all I had. I don't know, you had some additional information in your packet. I don't know if anybody wanted to talk about it, but we did get notified on the Park Pavilion project for $900,000 from GOCO.
All that.
Yeah, that was nice. Yeah, we got that.
And then you had a copy of the newsletter with, at least one ugly guy's mug in it.
Yeah, I talked to Joe about, actually, on Sunday, he and Trey both were up there for that. Because they wanted to be there when the guy was there certifying his pits, because they had a lot of work involved in doing that. And I asked Joe about the park renovation, because I said, Trey being gone, how's that going to impact things? And he said that a majority of the work for that, other than the town employees we're possibly doing some dirt work, but a lot of that's going to be outside contractors doing playground equipment installation stuff, so it wouldn't affect that project much at all. Because most of that wouldn't be our staff doing a lot of that work.
Very cool.
Nice. So I guess what are the next steps for the, if you know?
For the GOCO
Yeah, for
grant,
the 900,000.
we have to have several public meetings with whether it be at town events or specifically scheduled to get feedback about the design before we can move forward. We'll talk about it tomorrow in our staff meeting, but we need to figure out what that looks like. Get those scheduled sooner than later, because I don't want this to just drag on. I'd like to be able to say we got the park done in 2024.
Right.
No, that'd be great, yes.
Yeah.
Any other items?
That's it.
All right. Next item on the agenda, updates from board and board comments. We'll start with Trustee Flores.
Well, I do appreciate cutting our, not dragging out board meetings,
It's
and-
time for you to leave
I know. Yeah, so yeah, and then the horseshoe pit, it's amazing up there. I thought there was a tournament this Saturday coming up for the person that passed away.
That was Sunday.
That was Sunday.
It
I
was
missed it. Okay. Yeah. Otherwise, that's all I had.
Trustee Brindle.
Yeah, I know the horseshoe pits was the biggest thing I was talking about. When nice thing, the town staff's done a great job of getting that set up. Have a shed there to lock stuff in for the club, so that way things can be secured. There's power up there. There's water up there for us. The water is irrigation water, so it's not potable, but that way we can water down the pits and the things that we need for that. And then other than that, it's a great example of what can happen when the community comes together and gets behind a project. We did have an individual that lives in town that works for a company that his company donated some materials, and a lot of things were done that made that project come in far under the budget of what we had for it.
Great.
Nice.
Trustee Clausen.
I had a clarification thing. Is Nicole still on? Maybe.
I am.
Well, anyway, so yeah, long story short, it was about, the dogs in the parks and stuff like that, So anyway, I got a dog, so I looked online to say, okay, get a dog license. Then it says, okay, check out, code section 6.04-250. So I looked at it, and on there it just says, no owner shall allow an animal upon any property designated by the town of Silt as a public town park unless the animal is on the prescribed 10-foot leash. And then I thought, well, wait a minute. That's different than what the newsletter says, because the newsletter says that, it should only be on trails or sidewalks within parks. So it just seems like we have two different things. So, I just happened to come across that, and if we're trying to enforce things, it'd be nice to kind of clarify which one is correct, because I can see somebody reading one part of the code and not seeing the other part of the code. So.
Kristen, there any way you can email me the code section that you're talking about? And then I'll double check because it must be listed in two different sections
Yes.
saying two different things.
Because the one that was in the newsletter is code 8.24040. And then the one that I saw was 6.04.250.
Okay, I'll take a peek at that one. Because the other one specifies that the dogs need to be on the trail, but we have a lot of that in our code that different titles contradict each other.
Uh-huh.
That'll be another one for Sheila to add to the list.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure there's several of them on the list. So, you know, it was just one of those things I just happened across. So I wasn't, intentionally reading the code looking for stuff. It was just one of those things that was there. And
No, that's perfect. We need those brought up so that we can get it changed.
all right, so that was all. Well, I had one other comment. I just wanted to thank the town citizen who called me before the meeting to express their thoughts on the sanctuary town. And it's nice to actually hear from the citizens, because, like we've all talked about, we represent them. And, and even though, we don't have them here, it's still nice to hear from them, whether it's in person or on the phone or email or something like that. So anyway, I just wanted to thank that citizen, and it would be nice to have more feedback from our citizens in, whatever manner they choose. And that's all I have.
Trustee Seifert.
Question for Chief Kite. Is the crosswalk working now in front of the liquor store on that? I just have seen people in it. I didn't see it flashing, so they may not have pushed it. So I didn't know if it's up and running yet or not.
It was running.
I saw it.
I mean, I didn't know. I seen it was up and I just happened to go by. It wasn't flashing, so they may not have pushed it. So I didn't know if it wasn't working.
My guess is they didn't push it,
Okay,
but we
so it
did.
is up and running.
We
Okay.
did get them installed, and then they were hot.
They're definitely noticeable.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I had.
For me, just a question about how we're doing on the new town manager hiring. Where are we at in that process? How many resumes do we have?
I couldn't answer that question.
Is there anyone here who can?
No. Your former administrator. Oh, Sheila can.
Hey, look.
Nah.
Hey, look, raised hand.
I've gotten 3 so far.
Nice.
Nice. And when's the deadline again?
April 8th.
April 8th, okay.
So a week from Monday.
Well, let's hope that 3 turns into 30 by April 8th.
Yeah, 3's a short list. We were expecting to have more finalists than 3.
Most people wait till it gets closer to the deadline before they submit. So if it's like other applications we have.
I hope it's a busy 2 weeks. Okay, next item on the agenda is adjournment.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Trustee Seifert to adjourn, seconded by Trustee Brindall. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Good night, everyone.